I mean, something that I really love about Orlando is that they stuck with wines like this. I think because there's a lot of kind of Padthaway makes a lot of really lovely wines, and very few people put it on the label for whatever reason. Whereas I think, as this wine shows, it absolutely has a place among South Australia's, I think, top Shiraz regions. I mean, Tony, you've drunk a bit of South Australian Shiraz. Where do you see Padthaway sitting, and stylistically as well?
It's interesting, isn't it? Padthaway is, has, I don't know, it's always had that kind of backbone to a lot of great wines in South Australia, and not necessarily recognised for that. I mean, it sort of has always fallen in a bit of a shadow to Coonawarra, which is just south of there, in the sense of the fame of the region. But it is medium to cool in a sense. It's got there are pockets of it, because it's pretty flat, but there are pockets of it that are sort of quite cool, and I just think that the wines there have been hidden from sight in a sense, in terms of some of the big labels. So it's great to see that something like Lawson's can stay there and be celebrated for what Padthaway is about. Whenever I drive from my place to Coonawarra, there's always just that thing where it's like the gateway to the southeast in a sense. When you drive through there, there's just beautiful country to the east of it, hills going up. You've got beautiful flat land and rich flat land, which just makes fantastic Shiraz. And this is the kind of wine that is there all the time in our again, like the Orlando kind of brand. Padthaway wines are there, and we see them, and you kind of they're just part of the zeitgeist, I guess, in a sense. It's great to see that there's a richness to them, but a definition to the wine as well, which I think is really important.
And a savouriness. It's not just sweet fruit. There's this meaty, savoury edge, I think, and especially with a bit of age, as this wine clearly has. I mean, Jeni, how did you find this wine?
This is another one of those interesting wines where, again, I'd like some input from Ben about it. It's that pepperminty, bushmint, eucalypt, Aussie bush, whatever character you want to describe it as. This wine has it. To me, it's nicely countered by the fruit, but you can see it there. I would like to know how this would go in a wine show, actually, because I think this is one of those controversial wines that you would get some judges going, is that too much mint? Is that too much eucalypt? And I think the fruit is up to it, as I said, but certainly amongst that black blueberry fruits, mulberries, there is that bush mint. So Ben, what's your take on how you approach that in your winemaking?
That's been a part of this style ever since we started first producing it in the early 80s. So I think it's one of those things that, there's a lot of people that love this wine, and we just don't want to change it too much from that. It does, as I think you're really right there, it's polarising in wine shows. But the 15 did take out the top gold at the 2020 Adelaide wine show for the 15 and older Shiraz class. So there are wine judges that love it, drinkers like me that love it as well. But it's a really unique site. It's got a tea trellis, which is pretty unusual for vineyards in South Australia producing wine grapes. It is surrounded by eucalypts. It's on the eastern side, as Tony was talking about. You're just sort of heading up into those little small hills there in Padthaway. There's a little bit of Riesling and other white varieties that were accidentally planted in there. So I think it's a bit of the original field blend maybe before it became fashionable. And it's just a unique site that produces a wine very consistent year in, year out. And when we do the museum tastings on this wine every year, we just see that same character really flowing through. And so it really does have a sense of place. I guess for the whole Orlando range, except for this wine, we will change the vineyards from time to time, depending on the vintage, trying to make the best wine of that style every year. But we will never change the vineyard sourcing for Lawson's, because it's all about that site, really.
It's a very unique wine and a wine style. Don't you think, Shanteh? I mean, in terms of is there a place for this kind of style of wine? Because it's a savoury and earthy kind of style. Fair bit of oak. No, we haven't mentioned it, but this wine was fairly oaky too. Do you get many clients who are after this kind of style?
Absolutely. Absolutely you do. And I think particularly the Legends range, you know, I've kept a couple of Coravin bottles to share with the team. I think it's really important that they see these kind of styles and appreciate what they're all about. Whether or not I would see it in a wine show and know where this wine was from, when I tasted it, I kind of looked back at the label and thought, oh, Padthaway. And all I remember from my time there was the incredible gum trees, the just huge towering gums. And when I looked at that and then I saw that, like we said, and I think you've put it really well, Jeni, that bit of, I would say, just bush mint kind of element, I thought it really spitted well within the wine, but there was plenty of fruit and plenty of savoury olive and other tones in there, I think, that made the wine very interesting. Definitely a style, but that's what we want to see on wine lists. We want to see lots of different styles of lots of different regions in Australia.